To what you were actually just talking about with the physical science stuff, I'm just curious, being as previous years, they've had an equivalent of 2 years of physical science with the block scheduling. Now they've cut back because they had 80-minute classes and they did physical science for the full year versus broken up into 2 sections. Now with them going 50-minute classes, having essentially 1 year of physical science, I'm curious what the expectations are for those kids, how they're doing in compared to what they've been, how much they're covering. Are they able to cover the same amount of curriculum? Perhaps, I mean, this being your first year, maybe
well, it's the first year for the teachers too.
It is the first year for the teachers. We do have some teachers who have taught physical science as a semester class, physical science as the year-long class when it was the block, and now physical science as year-long in a 54-minute period. So we have been monitoring what we feel are key concepts that absolutely the must-haves for that MCAS physical science. But obviously we really won't know the outcome until that test is taken in June. But we are watching very closely to make sure that those topics are covered.
Okay. I'm curious to see. I know the kids last year did well on the MCAS physical science. Curious to see what the difference will be with the 2-year equivalent versus the 1 year. Thank you.
I just was wondering if there's exceptional students that come across this process, is there a diversion from preparing them from the MCAS when it may be evident that they're going to pass the MCAS on their first pass in 9th grade? Is there other challenging programs that you would guide them into to continue their rate of progress?
As they move up in grades, there's AP classes, and once they become juniors or seniors, they can do dual enrollment, so they can take classes outside of Westport High School and get college credits that way. But so they still need
outside resources as well. So but they get identified at that early stage.
We could, you know, obviously if they're in honors classes right from 9th grade, we would keep an eye on that and make sure they're maintaining those grades to continue on in those programs.
And with the introduction of algebra at the middle school, most of them are coming to us ahead in math of where they were before. So most of them are starting grade 9 in geometry. So that certainly gives them ample opportunity to get to AP calculus.
So is their performance in math or even the sciences indicates a group of students that are excelling? There's alternate routes other than the standard class offerings, and it may include a referral to a program outside.
Yes.
Right.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Marie. Grades 10 and 11, Mr. Emerald will talk about those.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Welcome. We start the sophomore year promoting the PSATs and identifying students for MCAS preparation classes. Counselors visit the classrooms to encourage sophomores to take the PSATs and explain how important that the PSAT is in preparation for the SAT. We continually remind students through public address announcements as well as articles in the school newspaper to encourage them to register by the deadline. We also call parents of many students of the sophomores, informing them of the PSAT, encouraging them to have their student register. We actually administer the PSAT every October. We encourage sophomores and juniors to take the PSAT. We also, in the spring of sophomore year, identify students that we feel are at risk for not doing as well as we'd like to see them do on the MCAS state assessment. And in the fall, we have a CD portfolio class, which is a preparation class for the English Language Arts MCAS. We identify those students, meet with them, and encourage them and contact their parents and encourage the parents to have them take that class if they can benefit from that. Following the PSAT administration, we hold an interpretation session as a group in the auditorium. We have an assembly, and we explain the scores, interpret the scores, and we use this opportunity as a segue to encourage them to get on board with collegeboard.com, where they can go into the Quick Start free online service which provides information on projecting the SAT scores based on how they achieved on the PSAT scores, learning how to improve their scores, and finding college and career information, all through that Quick Start program. The second half of sophomore year is mainly devoted to MCAS and SAT preparation, English language arts and mathematics, MCAS administration, and course selection. Second half of the year, we also provide another CD portfolio class for those students at risk for not doing well on the math MCAS assessment. And again, we meet with those students, encourage them and their parents to have them enroll in that course for math the second semester. We also encourage students very strongly to properly prepare for the SAT. We make suggestions as to how they can do that through programmatic courses, preparation classes, through tutoring services such as Great Place to Learn. And we also offer an SAT boot camp here at Westport High School for 10th, 11th, and 12th graders, and that's to prepare them for week-long intensive training for the SATs. So that is sophomore year. Junior year, we start off with educational proficiency plans. Now, educational proficiency plans came into being sometime for the first time at Westport High School during the 2008-2009 school year. The educational proficiency plan is developed in conjunction with parents and junior students for those individuals that did not demonstrate proficiency on the MCAS state assessment during sophomore year. The educational proficiency plan, through the goals and strategies of the plan, gives the student an opportunity to demonstrate proficiency through the educational proficiency plan if they do not do so on the MCAS by the time they graduate. And there's quite a bit of time that's spent with the educational proficiency plan. And once you get to, you follow them to their senior year until they reach proficiency, at which time they're off the plan. Very important event during the junior year is the College Information Evening, where we invite juniors and their parents to an evening session where we inform them about the, as Mrs. Fallow says, that the college application it's not an event, it's a process. And we introduce them to the college application process, emphasize the importance of preparing and taking the SATs and ACTs, and we also cover the financial aid process and the importance of that process. We again emphasize the importance of properly preparing for the SAT. We explain that tutoring services such as Great Place to Learn offers programs that they can take to prepare. There is a cost associated with that. However, there are other avenues. There is a collegeboard.com question of the day where they can register for the question of the day, and they get online questions that they can participate in every day on their own and on their home computer. There are also SAT preparation booklets that can be purchased at any bookstore. And we encourage students to spend about half hour a night preparing for the SATs. It's that important. Second half of junior year is taken up with encouraging juniors to register for the spring SAT and ACT. We also have during the senior interview, or the interview night, parents are encouraged to make appointments with counselors if they want a student to have an individual senior interview. So we spend the remainder of the year taking part in those senior interviews with the juniors, or those juniors that want them upon request. And we also participate at the end of junior year in the course selection process, sitting with students, choosing their courses, and making adjustments in those courses for the following year. Are there any questions?
I'll wait till the end. Anyone have any questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr.
They're going to get one.